Okay, let's look at these drivers then. Well, Max doesn't look too bad, does he? Oh my goodness, look at Sergio Perez. He looks like he really needs a poo now. He really needs a poo. They've made him stand there so they can get a face scan, but he really needs a poo now. Oh my goodness, look at Lulu. Look at Lulu. He looks like a Klingon without the Cornish pasty on top of his head. Why is his hairline so high? Codemasters, you bastard. Oh, Jesus Christ, what have they done to Oscar's pastry? What have they done to Oscar's pastry? He looks like, that other guy. Yeah, anyway, moving on. And who the bloody hell's this? Jamie Chadwick? That's not Jamie Chadwick, that's that bloody dwarf from Lord of the Rings. Oh yes, my precious. I know what you've done, Codemasters. You've gone and accidentally released F1 Race Stars Part 2, haven't you? Oh god, this is never going to get fixed now, lads. This is never going to bloody get fixed now. Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. Yes, the game that nobody asked for has come out this week, F1 24, and unfortunately quite a few bugs have surfaced just a few days after its release. One of the biggest ones, of course, is the main talking point, and that's the handling. I still say on controller the handling isn't too bad. Needs a few tweaks, but overall it's not too bad. But apparently on the steering wheel it's absolutely abysmal. Now, I spoke to someone who uses a wheel and is a very good player, and he says it basically is undrivable in its current state. But here is the big problem. 75% of people who buy F1 24 are going to be pad users. The other 25% use a steering wheel. Now, if Codemasters fundamentally change the handling of the game, which, as I say, for pads is pretty okay, this, of course, is going to royally piss off a lot of the controller guys, because they're going to say, oh, that's it, you don't care about us guys, the people that actually, you know, the 75% of the majority of people that buy your game. You're just going to pander down to the big F1 YouTubers and all the guys who have steering wheels and just change the handling. Now the problem is, whatever they do to the handling, it's going to affect the pad guys. That's obvious. If they do just a tiny couple of changes, it might be okay and what shouldn't be too bad for the pad, but unfortunately it needs a major redesign for steering wheels. Major redesign. And of course this is going to have a knock-on effect on the pad. And I think if it turns out that it plays very nice on the wheel, I'm pretty sure it's going to play pretty much horribly on the pad. This has been, you know, since about 2020, the last great game from Codemasters, which played fine on the pad and played fine on the wheel. Ever since then, I've felt personally that the pad user has been sort of pushed to one side, and the steering wheel user, as they've attempted to try and make F1 24 a simulation which it never has been and never will be. There are other simulation games out there that replicate Formula 1 cars a hell of a lot better than the official Formula 1 game, to be honest. So F1 has always been, it has to err on the side of simulation arcade, if you want to call it that. Simulation arcade. It could never be a proper sim, because otherwise the people who aren't very good at F1 games won't buy it. If it had all the characteristics of Assetto Corsa, it would have very low sales. So unfortunately, Assetto Corsa does get very low sales, not because it's not any good, it's actually a very good game, but because it is very complicated to set up and it does drive very well. And that's the problem for people who are on pads. So Codemasters have got an enormous task now to think about what they're going to do. Are they going to alienate their 75% user base by completely changing the handling, or are they just going to do a few tweaks? Now, I think it's about time in this year of 2024 that we had separate settings now for controller and for steering wheel, even so much as to put it on the main menu. This would possibly alleviate a lot of problems, but unfortunately, as I've said, if they are going to change the handling in any capacity whatsoever, it's going to affect the pad users. That's just a knock-on effect. There's nothing we can do about it. So I'm just a little bit dubious as to what Codemasters are going to do, and they've got a lot to do. Unfortunately, this game has been released way too early. I believe it's still got 3 to 4 months of development cycle still left in it before it's in a fit state to be released. It's a little bit like WRC, unfortunately. It's not in a fit state at the moment. There are so many bugs and glitches, it's pretty much not worth playing, to be honest. Now, in the career mode, I have heard reports, and I did ask around, and people have confirmed this, that there's no yellow flags, there's no safety car, none of the AI ever seem to break down. And of course, we know the infamous tyre glitch where they all just run around on dry tyres in the wet because they haven't got the intelligence to come in for a pit stop when it rains. And so basically, the career mode at the moment isn't even worth playing. Despite all the new features of the career mode, if there's no safety car, no yellow flags, none of the AI actually, stop running or DNFs, there's no point. And my fear is that to fix this, anybody who's playing now might have to restart their career save. So if you're rushing through the career right now, I'd slow down a little bit, because seriously, you might have to do a restart if the fundamental problems take a while to fix. Now, I've also seen someone upload a video of a 100% race on F124. I think it was at Monaco, but I can't really remember. And in that race, there was yellow flags, there was safety cars, and there was cars actually not finishing. So the code is in the game. It's in the game, it's just not switched on in the career mode, which does kind of worry me a little bit because of all the changes they've made to the career mode. If they've forgotten to switch it on, this could be a huge error which could take a very long time to fix, because they've now, if they have forgotten to switch it on, they've now got to interweave all the things like the yellow flags, the safety cars into the game, which has already got a lot of complications in it with the, with your teammate being able to pick parts in the development now. I don't even want to begin to try and understand how that works if they've got to now interlace all the things that should have been in the game from the first place, like the safety cars and the yellow and the red. Oh my god, the red flags. I don't even want to go there. I've no idea that's going to work either with all the new features. So it's quite a problem for Codemasters, but definitely this game has been released in a sort of beta A state. It's certainly not how you would say ready. Now, of course, this happens every single year with Codemasters. They release a game and it's not finished. It just isn't finished. And it's absolutely deplorable when you charge £90 to £100 for a game and just the basic features that you have had for years and years and years is not in it. It's not in it. I mean, come on. Yellow flags, safety car. That should be there from the start. Now, some of the blame to this has to not fall on Codemasters' shoulders. As you've probably read in the news, the whole software industry has been going through quite a bad patch recently, and there's been lots of layoffs, and Codemasters are not immune to this either. I do believe they've had to let go of at least 50 people. I've no idea how many staff they have in total, but I do believe they've had to lay off 50 people. It looks from my point of view that some of those were involved in testing, because this game definitely wasn't tested. I saw lots of videos with Lee Maffer going around doing the usual circuit that he does, saying about, oh, we've got all this and all that. And I'm sorry, Lee, but you must have known the game was in a right state, and yet you've gone round doing all the press junkets saying about, oh, this is in it. You must have known. You are the creative director of the F1 games. I do believe that's your official title. You must have known that this game was in a right state. And I'm sorry, credibility now is going out the window. You cannot keep doing this every single year and expect us as the Formula One consumer to keep buying it. £70, £90 is a lot of money, especially during these times when we've got a cost of living crisis still going on. It's still going on. Yes, it's still going on. Food is still astronomical, and yet you still want to charge a horrendous price for these F1 games, which I'm sorry, I've been through F1 24, and it really does just look like an F1 23 DLC pack. It's very, very light on content. So anyone who wishes to buy the game, think very hard indeed. You've got the new liveries for 2024. Okay, you've got upgrades to the career mode, which really aren't that much, to be honest. They're there, but apart from that, there's nothing. My team, exactly the same as last year. They've admitted they made no changes to that whatsoever. My team, no changes whatsoever. And that's it. That's basically it. There's lots of bells and whistles if you go through all the menus about all these little things, but they mean nothing. They mean absolutely nothing. Nobody takes any notice of the F1 world. Nobody wants it. Nobody knows why it keeps getting put in there now. Been in there, I think, 2 or 3 years. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. All we want is a game that works. We want an exciting game. We do not want this every single year. Now, unfortunately, if anyone wants to look on my Twitter, you will see I made a video about 3 years ago now saying that Electronic Arts taking over Codemasters was a really bad idea, and it gives me no pleasure whatsoever to say I was absolutely bang on the money, 100%. I just was, but as I say, it doesn't give me any pleasure whatsoever. It really doesn't. I've been a fan of Formula 1 since 1988. I've been a fan of Formula 1 games since the first one came out on PlayStation, the original Formula 1 back in, I think it was 95, 96. And I just loved them to death. I loved them to death. So this kind of thing, watching everyone post videos on YouTube, I'm talking really, really good esports drivers posting videos on YouTube. Someone's done a lap of Monaco in 1 minute and 5 seconds, for Christ's sake. 1 minute and 5 seconds. At Bahrain, yeah, you can drive down the left-hand side of the circuit where the grass is, yeah, and you don't spin out. You don't spin out. Because there's just too much grip from the tyres. Just too much grip from the tyres. Now, it does remind me, I have to say, of the old F1 games where there was no traction control and it just relied on grip from the tyres. So it does sort of take me back to the old days of the Formula. And I loved it. I loved it because traction control, I don't like. It's not there in real life. But I can see why it has to be there. It has to be there for the newbies and for the people who can't drive very well. You know, I understand. But I've always said, please just make more traction in the tyres. But they've just gone ridiculous because you can literally, and they seem to have completely removed all the curbs. They've removed all the curbs, so you can just drive over anything. Yes, you can just drive. You can probably end up going through the countryside on any of the tracks and just keep going because it's not going to stop you now. Yes, I don't know what's going on, but it just won't stop you. Yes, and so everything's flat. And your car just drives over everything. And it doesn't matter if you go down the left-hand side of the circuit on the grass, you don't spin out. Now, go back to something like F1 Championship Edition. Okay, millimeters offline, yeah, you'd hit that grass and you'd spin around like a top. If anyone remembers that game, it was back in the PS3 days, back when Studio Liverpool used to make them. And it was just great. It really was. That was, but this now, I don't know what the hell has happened. How the hell did this not come up in testing? It just feels to me like they got the work experience boy to test it, and I asked him how it was going. He just turned around and went, "It's all right. It's all right." That's all I can think of. I don't know how many testers they've got for the F1 series of games. I'm hoping it's at least 5 or 6 people, at least. But what the hell were they doing? How did this get past quality control? For one thing, they must have some kind of quality control at Codemasters. They're a very big company now. They've got amalgamated studios, haven't they, from the old Project Cars studios, and they've got Evolution Studios. They've got people there as well. So there's quite. I know it's still a small studio in reference to other studios, and something like Rockstar or something like that. But you know, they have got the big bucks behind them with EA, who paid £1.2 billion for the acquisition of Codemasters. Yeah, that's gone well, hasn't it? Yes, that's gone very well. So what the hell is going on? Of course, I will blame EA because I've never liked EA. I think everything they touch, they just completely destroy. But here's the fundamental problem. If this continues every year, I've seen every time EA posts on its official Twitter feed now, I look down the comments, and it's just getting to a point now where it's depressing me, because every single comment is fix your game. Your game's rubbish. I'm not going to swear, but your game's rubbish. But you can imagine what they're saying. Every single comment. I don't even think I think I've seen 2 comments saying, "Oh, this game's great, guys." 2 comments. That's it. And it's every time they post, there's a barrage of negative comments. And this just cannot continue every single year, because I'll tell you exactly what will happen. No one will buy the game, and then they'll stop making them. And then we'll be in the wilderness. In the wilderness, like we were for the 2007 and the 2008 season, when there was no Formula 1 games. Now, here's the other problem. There's no other studio out there that wants this license. No other racing studio wants it. It's too much hassle. Nobody wants it. So if they do stop making them, I can't see any other studio taking it over. I really can't. It's just going to die. It's just going to die. I understand that Codemasters have renewed the contract till I think at least 2028. So they should, but of course, contracts can be broken. We've seen this in Formula 1 in real life. So it's not a given, but the contract I do believe is 2028. It might even be a little bit longer than that, might be 2030, but so there should be a Formula 1 game. But eventually, if this continues on like it does every single year, and I'm pretty sure they're getting less and less sales every single year. Unfortunately, they don't release sales figures anymore, which just smacks of, not being brave enough to tell us how many of these games, how many copies of these games have been sold. I believe that Formula 1, if you looked at a graph from 2020 onwards, I believe it's steadily declining every year. 21, 22, 23, and now 24. I bet you that's probably about on the bottom of the scale of the graph now for 24. And I can't see the situation getting any better. I just cannot believe that this happens every single year. I mean, yes, they'll bring out patches, but it's going to take a long time. They reckon it'll be 2 weeks before the handling patch comes out. 2 weeks, because Codemasters, in their, I don't know, arrogance. Is it arrogance? I've no idea. It seems to be arrogance to me. Thought that everyone was going to love the handling. So now everyone hates it. They've now got to spend 2 weeks trying to fix it. But I don't think 2 weeks is enough. It's because it's not just slightly flawed, it's fundamentally flawed. And I think it's going to take a lot more than 2 weeks. We could end up with an F122 situation where they sort of get it to a level but still not right. And I think that's what's going to happen, unfortunately, with F124. I can't see that they're going to switch that handling and everyone's going to go, "Oh, that's so much better. It's just like F123. It's not possible, because they've spent all these months putting in this new handling system, which, I mean, basically this dynamic handling. If you look at the back of all the F1 games, so I think the past 5 years it's either had something about new handling system, new dynamic. I think from F1 21 onwards, that's what they put on the back of the cover every year. So I don't get it. And lots of people have been complaining, but they do change the handling every single year. It's always different. It's never the same handling twice. 23 is nothing like 22. 22 is nothing like 21. 20 is nothing like 21. Now, 20 was the last game, I think, where they actually had the handling pretty much perfect. And don't forget, they made that game during the middle of a pandemic. This is what gets me going. The middle of a pandemic, they made that game, and it's bloody good. It's F1 2020 is the last best F1 game from Codemasters. It really is. And as I say, they were under so much pressure with all the lockdowns to make, and that's what they came up with. They really did. And it's just amazing to me that now, 3-4 years later, they're making all these mistakes with these games, and it's just constant every single year. And it just gets to me. It really does, because I am a fan. I love everything about the F1 games. I love everything about F1 in real life as well. I watch a lot of esports stuff. Not as much, because it's the Yarno Opmias. They're a little bit too elite for me. But there's a lot of great drivers out there who I do follow and watch because I enjoy their content. And you know, it's just great for me. I love seeing people who are good at what they're doing, especially, you know, in a video game situation. I just love to see it. I really do. And it's just so frustrating. I like to think that I'm speaking for you guys out there, the normal people, the people that, you know, haven't got a lot of money, and the people who, you know, really use a controller mostly for playing F1 because, you know, steering wheels are expensive and they're a bit of a fiddly mess to set up. I'd like to say that I'm not having a go at steering wheel users, okay? I see the value of being a steering wheel user. I know a lot of people, in fact, to be honest, to be elite in F1, you have to be a steering wheel user. I've seen so many people who were really great on a pad, but they've now gone over to steering wheels, because I think to be the best and to be challenging, you really have to be on a steering wheel. I think I've only ever seen 2, maybe 3 really good players on a pad that have reached like esports level. It's really something that's impossible to do, to be honest. So yeah, they move on to steering wheels. So I'm not having a bash at steering wheel users. No problem with them whatsoever. The problem is, as I say, is Codemasters. Is it going to bow down to the pressure, and is it going to fundamentally change the handling just for the 25% who buy the F1 games on a steering wheel? Or are they going to, you know, balance it out? I'd like it to be balanced out. And as I say, separate settings for controllers and separate settings for steering wheels, you know, that would probably make a difference. But unfortunately, as I say, the handling will be changed across both. So I don't know. It's just a bloody mess. Now you'll notice that very few of the big F1 YouTubers are actually announcing to the world that it is such a mess. They're still carrying on with their career modes and sort of fluffing it about and saying, that was just a little error. That was just a little mistake. Okay, let me tell you, the game at the moment is not in a fit state, and it just it upsets me so much. It really does. I just want the game to be good, and I want it to be playable. And you know, I race in a league on a Monday night. You know, it looks highly unlikely we're going to be using F124 in its current state, because we've got controller users and wheel users, and it just doesn't look like that's going to happen, unless of course the fundamental change to the handling is sorted out. Now, of course, the chief handling guy, David Greco, left after F123. I also said in a stream that this was very bad news. Very bad news indeed. I had a few people say that, you know, it's just one guy, isn't it? It's just one guy. But David has been there a very long time. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on it. I think 2010, maybe 2010. But I know he's been there in the very early days of like the PS3 Formula 1 games. Very early days. He's been there a long time. So he's got experience, a lot of experience in the handling characteristics of these games. He did F123, then he left straight after. So everything on F124 was done by someone else. I say someone else, obviously it's a team of people. There isn't one person doing the handling. There was like a team of people. But David Greco was in charge of that team of people. And he was really, I think, starting to get on top of the balance between pad and wheel. I think he was getting there. 22 was a little bit of a step backwards, but I think 23 was definitely going in the right direction, but it still needed improvement. I still didn't like it that much on the pad, but it was getting there. So I think, you know, he could have, well, I know for a fact he'd have done a far better job on 24 than, I'm not dissing the handling person on 24. I'm really not, and you shouldn't do either, okay? They've got an enormously hard job to do to get these games out, and the development cycle is horrible. I think it's like 7 months. They got 7 months to make a brand new game. Obviously, it's not really a brand new game because they just, you know, copy and paste most of the assets from last year's game, to be honest. And looking at F124, it was blatantly obvious that they'd copy pasted everything. But in some other areas, it's just taken a backward step. The graphics now look horrible. They're supposed to. They said they've uprated the drivers' faces, as you saw at the start of the video. They just look worse now. They don't look better. They look worse. I don't get. And you can clearly see who has gone in for some motion capture and has had their face scanned, and who hasn't. And Jamie Chadwick definitely didn't, because they look like caricatures now, as in the video F1 Race Stars. It's F1 Race Stars 2. That's what your game is, everyone. F1 24 is F1 Race Stars 2. I'm sorry, I've got to say it. Anyway, I've been rambling for 24 minutes. So like I say, thanks everyone for watching once again, and let me know in the comments what you feel. If you got the game, let me know. I've already had a lot of feedback about the game so far, so thanks for that. But let me know, what you think, and what do you think Codemasters should do in the future. Definitely, I think they've released the game way too early. Every year now, they're pushing the envelope and trying to get it out earlier and earlier and earlier. And now, unfortunately, they're like the Emperor naked. Everyone can see now that this game is not finished. Before, when it was got out a little bit later and there was lots of bugs and glitches, they could just say, oh no, that's all right, we're just going to, patch it. Just a few things to sort out and we'll do it. That was fine. But this one clearly has been released to the worldwide public and it isn't finished. It is not finished. It definitely isn't finished. I cannot believe you could release a game without the safety car, yellow flags, cars failing. I just can't believe you do that. I really can't. And I am mentioning career mode, not in the single races, because apparently it does work in the single races. So I find that very bizarre. But as I say, with all the complications of the career mode, maybe they haven't switched it on because they have problems making it work, and that's why they haven't switched it on while they're working away. But don't work away at some of the problems. Just delay it until it's or at least in some kind of fit state. Some kind of fit state. I mean, at the moment for wheel users, it's just a joke. I mean, you can literally Mario Kart it around the corners. You really can. It reminds me very much of F1 2014. Even worse than that, F1 2009 on the Wii, using the old Wii steering wheel, if anyone remembers that. That's how the handling, I mean, for me as a controller, it feels okay, but I can still feel that slippy slidiness, which I think on a wheel is going to be amplified to such a degree that it's going to be absolutely undrivable, unfortunately. But anyway, there you go. I didn't want to report this, but it has to be. It has to be reported, because otherwise you out there aren't going to know. And you might spend your £70-90 on this game thinking it's, it's fine. Absolutely fine. It is not fine. It will probably get patched. Another 26 patches. That's the norm at Codemasters these days, 26 patches. And it probably will get patched to a level. But I don't know. And it just makes me very sad indeed. And I'm not dissing Codemasters whatsoever. I'm really not. That's not what I'm here for, is diss Codemasters. I just makes me sad that they released a game and it's not finished. It's not finished. And it can't go on. You can't keep doing that every year. As the old saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You, I don't know, whatever it was. You know the quote. So yeah, so it can't go on. Things have to change. Just release it on your normal cycle of June, July. And yes, it'll have bugs in it and it will need patches, but at least it won't have the impression that it's got now, which is very bad indeed. And it makes me sad. I hope that Codemasters sort it out and the game runs smoothly and we finally get some track limits and you spin out if you go off. I hope that all gets done, and I hope the game is a vast improvement from what it is now. I hope, but I always hope that every single year, and it never comes to fruition. But I hope that's what happens. I'm not dissing Codemasters or all the men and women that are working there. They're a lot of people think they just sit there, drinking cups of tea all day. That's not what they do. They are working as hard as they can, flat out, to try and get this game out. But I don't know whether it's EA pushing for early release dates or anything like that. I don't know what it is, but something is just, and they're pushing themselves too far now, and they just haven't got time to get this fixed. So please, EA, Codemasters, if you're watching, I know you're not, but if you are, just put it back to a June-July cycle. Because I think, that's the best idea now, because clearly the game's not finished at the moment. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. You've been awesome as always, and I'll catch you in the next video.